All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. This is the final market close of the week as tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Thank everybody for being here. I see the thousands of comments that I'm 1 minute late. I'm here. We're live. And we are ending out the week today on a green day. We got 3 green days in a row. Very nice to see. It has been a long time since we've had 3 green days in a row. S&P 500 right here is up about 1%, 0.93%, 681.32 in the morning. Kind of started off in that 670, 679 range, broke through 680, and now it does look like we are going to get that close above 680, which is very nice to see. As a result, you got a lot of things moving upwards. Bitcoin touched 90,000 today for the first time in a couple weeks, or for the first time in a week. But nice to see Bitcoin at the point where it was at 80,000 last week. Now it's at 90,000. So that's really cool to see. Ethereum as well broke above 3,000. We are still holding above 3,000. That is what has led to BMNR having as good of a day as it's having. BMNR right there up 9.5% of the day after being up 5% yesterday, up 15% over the past couple of days. Amcor's up 4%. You have Meta that's slightly taking a little bit of a breather today. Rocket Lab's down about 1%. Weeble's up 9%. Roblox is up 2%. Novo's up 3%. AMD's up 4%. And of course, Hoodie ended up having just an incredible day, 11.2%. You know, when the news came out yesterday that Robinhood was acquiring their own derivatives exchange and creating a clearinghouse for prediction markets, I thought it was bullish. I thought it was important. I thought it mattered. I did not know the market would say, we don't care what's going on in crypto. We don't care what's going on in the broader market. We care that Robinhood's essentially getting rid of the middleman here and doing what they did with stocks, which is vertically integrating. Same thing they did with crypto. And as a result, that announcement that you had yesterday, Vlad tweeted about it about an hour ago, also is why Hood is getting the momentum that it's getting today. I mean, it makes sense as well. The reason it's getting a premium in terms of like the price action is because if they're able to not do 2 cents per contract and then give away 50% of that revenue and keep even 25% of that additional cent, that dramatically increases the earnings updates. And if you think the volume of growth is going to be there for prediction markets, which from everything we've seen, 9 billion contracts in the past year, 2.5 billion in October alone, I mean, that becomes very, very, very compelling. And that's why Robinhood is getting some momentum today. So yes, markets are open on Friday. I won't be live on Friday. I will be with family, but it's going to be a relatively light day. We're going to have a half day. It'll be closing at 1 p.m. So the price action for today, I mean, maybe there's some different price action we see on Friday to the upside or downside, but this is kind of the big day for the end of the week to see if we can hold on to the green. And it seems like we are holding on to the green. Kalshi's valuation is 11 billion and today's Hood market cap went up 11 billion. You know, I think there was a lot of people today questioning. I actually found some people that specifically focus on, there are people making entire newsletters off prediction markets. Like they write about the entire industry that is the prediction market. So I started subscribing to a couple of these people as I've been getting more into it. And a lot of them are questioning if Kalshi should be worth 11 billion. Because if you're not vertically integrated and all you have is marketing, which is what Kalshi has, the actual prediction market itself is a commodity, or at least it's becoming commoditized, what do you have? And so that's why I think the markets are giving a heavier premium to Hood. And that's why we're seeing a little bit more momentum. So some exciting stuff that we saw today. A couple other macro stats to give you guys. And then we do have Tom Lee, who was on today. So we'll take a look at him and his thoughts after we get into the close. Margin debt continues to go higher. October margin debt, 57.2 billion at a record 1.2 trillion. Now, November was a deleveraging event in the market in the context of crypto and equities. And you would imagine a lot of people probably brought down their margin exposure either because they had to or because they wanted to prevent a margin call. So we'll see what happens in the November numbers. But October showed that margin debt was continually going up and to the right. Maybe that's also the reason why November was a little bit choppy. But over the last 6 months, margin debt has surged about 39%, the biggest jump since the year 2000. So people are still taking out tons and tons of capital to be able to buy stocks. And that also makes a lot of sense in the context of what we're seeing for some of these equities that are getting some more momentum. Now, again, the S&P 500, one thing to remember about the S&P is that it was down 4.4% in November. I think the lowest it got to was down 4.4%. We are up 3.5% from that 4.4%. So you're talking about one of the largest intraday reversals, or I should say intra-week reversals on the S&P 500 in a pretty long time, especially in the month of November. November tends to be bullish, but obviously this November was relatively choppy. And the fact that we are less than 1.5% away from all-time highs is pretty incredible. It's pretty freaking incredible. And again, if we close positive, this will be the largest reversal for this month for the S&P 500, which was down at 4.4% for the month. So 7,000 end of year is starting to come up as a question. We'll get Tom Lee's thoughts on it in a little bit. He still thinks that it is possible. It's just now a little bit more nuanced given everything that we dealt with over the past couple of weeks as well. Here's some more data from Goldman Sachs. I showed this a little bit in the morning, or at least I mentioned it, but here's the chart to kind of solidify this. Hedge funds recorded their largest two-day net purchase of U.S. equities since May on November 21st and the 24th, which was over the past week. This marked one of the biggest two-day buying periods of the last 2 years. Single stocks and macro products such as index futures and ETFs reflected 56% of net notional buying. IT sector led overall activity, aka the market went into tech, and the strongest buying was in semiconductors, technology and hardware, and communication equipment. Hedge funds seems like they aggressively bought the dip, which is very exciting to kind of see the momentum that has taken place over the past couple of days. The 10-year, by the way, the Treasury, wow, we're actually under 4. That's pretty incredible, dude. Market's green and people are buying bonds. I think that's the market pretty much saying we think the Fed's going to cut. I did not expect the 10-year to actually dip under 4 today. That is incredible. So people are buying bonds, causing those yields to come down. Rate cut probability is highest I've seen them today. In the morning, it was at 82. We are at 84.9. We did get a pretty crappy PMI this morning, which ended up being good news because it means we're likely going to need to expand and instead of contract, which would make the argument for a rate cut. And jobless claims this morning came in at 216,000. The market expected 222,000. It's actually the lowest average we've seen for jobless claims in about 4 months. So labor market, not horrible, even though it is weakening. Fed probability is almost 90% for a rate cut. The 10-year under 4%, which is very important for those 30-year mortgages to come down, which would help unlock the housing market. And you got equities that are recovering a decent chunk of what they lost. And then you got Bitcoin that hit 90,000. So I guess the number one question is, have we bottomed? And if we have, then maybe some of the prices we've seen, Hood at 100, NVIDIA 169, SoFi at 23. Maybe those prices are gone for the rest of the year, which would obviously be very productive for people who took advantage and bought the dip. Ethereum right there, 3,022, AMD at 214, Google right there at 320. That's also barely down on the day, down about 1%. Then Bitcoin just under 90,000. Where is SoFi? I think it was at 2850, SoFi 2863. Okay, so that's still up at least 1% on the day. And then Tessie, did we get 420? Wow, 425. I haven't looked at Tesla for the past couple hours. 425. That's a hell of a move on Tesla, given that it was at 410 a couple of days ago. Broadcom, oh my goodness, that's pushing 400. Broadcom 397. That's a new all-time high. 399 was the 52-week high, so it's very close. Lennar's up a little bit on the day. Nebius also had a great day as well. Let me know if anyone bought the dip on anything today, or if you took advantage on. I mean, there wasn't really a dip, but if you kind of just continued to add today, or if you trimmed any positions and took some profits right here. Nebius right there up 7.3%, 95.38 on the day, and then you had CoreWeave up 5%, Cypher as well, 9.3%. All right, so all the data center plays getting back a lot of what they lost over the past couple of days. Amazon's been relatively flat. I think it peaked at like 232. Amazon is at 230, 229. All right. Yeah, Amazon being flat. See a lot of metas. I see a lot of Z-scalers. Amid our covered call is dangerous here. You know, it's a great question. It's hard to, okay, my best answer to this, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, is sell very, very out of the money low delta calls. So if you think Hood's run up too much, I wouldn't sell a 135 call. I would sell like a 150 call in a short time frame. You know, because it would have to really make a move for you to get called away. Or if you think this run is extended and Hood's going to top out around here and, you know, come back down to the 115s, then obviously selling like a 132, 134 call makes sense. Momentum is on the side of the bulls again, and you got a lot of things that are lining up like that rate cut that could be very effective. So I would be a bit hesitant to sell calls going into the month of December. And if you would do it, I think it would be very, very low delta OTM calls. I see Celsius, Iran, Hood, Oscar. Oscar got some momentum today as well. Oscar, wow, 8.8%, recovering a lot of the drop that it had a couple days ago. The reason Oscar is up is although that ACA subsidy is not fully confirmed, and this actually, I missed this news in the pre-market. This explained a little bit better why Oscar was up. Piper Sandler said Oscar can grow market share and profitability even if advanced premium tax credits expire at the end of 2025. So basically they're saying even without the ACA subsidies, we think they're going to be okay. They upgraded them from 13 to 25. And they upgraded them from neutral to overweight. So that's a really big upgrade from a pretty reputable firm on Oscar without the need for ACA subsidies, basically highlighting, look, we think the stock is really undervalued. And so that's why that stock made a move. I see BMNR. I see Meta. I see a lot of Metas. I see some Rocket Labs, Zscaler, CleanSpark, Zeta, Cypher, Oracle. Oracle did get back above 200. Where is Oracle right here? I think we're at 205. Oracle right here, 205.30. That's up 4.3%, fell to 185 yesterday. And so that one making a recovery as well. Rivian, have not looked at this in a second. Rivian right here, wow, 4.4%. Rivian had a pretty good earnings last week and got a move. So Rivian right here, holding on to that. Robin, it looks like we're going to get that 128 close. Maybe we get 127.50, but it would be very nice to see 128.16 on the day. BMNR, that's up 9.3%, and then Ethereum, 3,027. Misty continues to get hit. So Misty, to me, is just going to be a tax loss this year. It was an experiment. Unfortunately, Bitcoin didn't work out, so MicroStrategy didn't work out. Someone asked, what are you doing with your Misty? Yeah, it's going to be a tax loss. I mean, it's 500 shares. It wasn't meant to be I know a lot of people use it as an income strategy. For me, it was just like, hey, maybe this thing makes sense from a yield max. And I think, again, yield max is not necessarily the worst type of fund in the world because the NVIDIA ones, the Hood ones, the Palantir ones are doing well. It's just Bitcoin absolutely shit the bed. And as a result, so did MicroStrategy. So Misty did not work out. Now, if you're knee deep in Misty and you're legit using it as income, I don't know if you take the tax loss here, because if you believe in Bitcoin and Bitcoin comes back, MicroStrategy comes back, then Misty should come back. The problem is Misty is going to have a lot of NAV erosion until that happens, and Bitcoin might not come back for a long time. Now, we're going to listen to Tom Lee in a second, and Tom Lee was a bit more excited about Bitcoin, so maybe Bitcoin comes back quicker than normal, but yeah, I think it's just going to end up being a tax loss and a harvest this year. DoorDash right here, 196. Uber at 85.81. Kava, 49.72. That's up 2.4%. We talked about a lot of the retailer stocks this morning. Look at Chipotle getting another 1.63% on the day. Zeta right there, that's up 0.94%. NVIDIA still holding 180s. Would be very nice to see it close above 180. Verizon was up on the day. Even PayPal's up 1% on the day, which is great to see. Small caps having a great day, up 1%. Duolingo, best day, I think, in a couple months. That's up 7% on the day as well. Lyft is up 2.75. You even got Grab up 2% of the day. And then Dell, which had a great earnings, up 6%. Just overall, pretty strong day. And very exciting to see a lot of these stocks continue their momentum. So it looks like we are going to close green for the third day in a row. It has been a tough couple of weeks. We've all dealt with the pain of seeing a lot of these names get hit pretty hard. But the fact that NVIDIA is barely up on the day and the S&P 500 is really trying to get back into that 680 level, to me, just means we're broadening out. There are other sectors that are getting that capital. That means not all the pressures on NVIDIA, not all that pressures on tech. You're seeing a bit more of a broadening rotation. We don't have to go back to the moon anytime soon. But the fact that we're stabilizing at these levels without the world's largest company participating realistically in that upside, even after those earnings, I think is very productive. And NVIDIA, if it were to get back to its earnings price at 197, would also be really good for the S&P. All right, there we go. Wednesday, November 26th, 4 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Last market close of the week. The stock market is now closed. All right, we are done. We are done for the week. What a week it has been. I mean, we still have Friday left, but nonetheless, this was the end to the majority of the trading that is going to be happening this week. And we ended green. S&P 500, 679.67 on the close, was up 0.67%. Oscar got 816 on the close. Tesla did we get 425? Tesla got 426.49. Hoodie, did we get 128? Wow, we got 128.20 on Hoodie, 11% on the day. Absolutely incredible. Palantir right there at 165.77 on the day. NVIDIA got the 180 close, 180.26. Microsoft actually up 2%, 485.50. Apple 277, that was up 0.21%. AppLovin was up 5.4%. Abercrombie up another 5% on the day. Nubank all-time highs, 3.79%. ASTS was flat on the day. Kohl's was up another 7% after being up 40% yesterday. A lot of those retailers getting some love. You had Cisco that was slightly flat on the day. McDonald's that was up a little bit. And then you had Broadcom hit an all-time high at 397, 3.26% right there on Broadcom. Amazon relatively flat, 229. I do think Amazon is next after Google. Don't know when it's going to happen, but 300 is inevitable, in my opinion, for Amazon. Nebius right there, up 6.5% as well on the day. We can all enjoy a little bit of our Thanksgiving. The last 3 days makes Thanksgiving and spending time with your family a bit more enjoyable. So very, very grateful for the markets to kind of rebound a decent chunk from what they lost last week. All right, Tom Lee, here's what he has to say, and here's what he's thinking about the state of this market.
Managing partner and CNBC contributor, Tom Lee. Tom, great to see you.
Great to see you, Mike.
So you had been saying, let's say a few weeks ago that we could get some choppiness in the first part of November, but you were still kind of bullish looking beyond that. What, in your view, has the market been contending with in recent weeks? What did we learn, and how does it set us up for the outlook here?
Yeah, well, I think the market's been struggling with the same things that it's grappled with all year, which is a monetary policy direction that's not completely clear. As you know, the odds of a December cut have really jumped around from as high as 60 down to 30 back to 80. And the second is, of course, policy volatility, because the administration does make proclamations and statements that are sometimes head fakes but confuse investors, and it's all resulted in really suppressed enthusiasm for stocks. Sentiment has been bearish.
And then that, led to a 5+% pullback in the S&P 500. A lot of the more aggressive parts of the market took on a lot more pain than that. Where does it leave us in your mind? I mean, as I mentioned, 4 days, this market has barely even flinched at pretty much all the hurdles that were along the way. The moving averages, we got above last Thursday's high. We know it's kind of an upside bias the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the Friday after. But beyond that, where do we go?
I think we're set up for a really strong rally into year end. And I know we just came out of a pretty terrible grind. I've talked to a lot of PMs that have said it's one of their worst 6-week periods ever in their career. So we know people lost money, they've de-risked. But we know into year end, we have the positive seasonals, especially given how strong the May to October was. It's really a 5 to 6 chance that we're going to be up 5% into year end.
Right.
The second is monetary policy, I think, is going to shift dovish. Even if Fed Chair Powell is hawkish, we know it waiting in the wings is now a shadow Fed that's dovish. The third is we know sentiment is going to have to chase this rally because 80% of fund managers are trailing their benchmark. And then I think the fundamental story is pretty intact. As we're doing work into next year, and I think earnings visibility is going to be really good. So I don't think I'm questioning if earnings are peaking. It's more just that stocks price in and correct enough.
Now, you've been, I think, pointing toward, let's say, 7,000 in the S&P by year end. Now, that's only like 2.5% up from here. We made some progress. But a year ago, you also thought we'd hit 7,000 in the first half of this year. So what happened along the way? And I guess, what might you think about in terms of impediments looking into 2026?
Yes. I mean, we're almost through this year. And I'd say, looking back, this was 5 years of history compressed into 1 year, because we had a major bear market, the biggest tariff hikes ever. And that, of course, killed any hope of any 7,000 in the first half. But miraculously, stocks went into a waterfall decline and recovered every single point of that decline symmetrically. So it really speaks to the resilience. But I guess as we're thinking about next year, I bet you it's going to be very similar in the sense that we'll get a policy shock, maybe whether it's monetary or from the administration. It could lead to a big drawdown of 20% again. Yeah. But it's a replay of this year. And maybe we've now had 3 20% bear markets in 5 years. I mean, that's a lot of history compressed into a 5-year period. Now,
you mentioned obviously the confusion over the path for the Fed as contributing to this recent pullback, as well as some policy flux in there. What role did the violent shakeout in crypto have on all that? Because a week ago, That's all we were talking about, was Bitcoin can't stop going down. The NASDAQ wants to follow it, or people are concerned about how that's going to knock other things loose in other financial assets. So it's stabilized, but it's not exactly sort of participating to the upside in this bounce.
Yes. So crypto had been a leading indicator for actually most of the last 5 years. But on October 10th, crypto had what I would call Armageddon, a flash event, but it led to a liquidation that was never seen in the 15 years history of Bitcoin. About a third of the market makers went out of business that day. Almost 2 million accounts went to zero.
Yeah.
And it was because of a pricing error, what I would call a glitch. It led to what they call auto
you've definitely
deleveraging.
made that case that it definitely seems as if there was something in the kind of market maker functioning that got fouled. Now, that being said, the reason you can have all those accounts auto liquidated is because there were that many accounts with that much leverage that got Bitcoin up to where it was above 120.
Yes.
Right. I mean, so it's not as if it happened in a vacuum.
Yeah. So if in a way, it means crypto represents really a very precise measurement of risk appetite, because there's so much more leverage, and that got wiped out.
Right.
That last time it happened in 2022, it took 8 weeks before people sort of touch their toes back in. I think that's where we are. We're near a bottom, but now I don't think crypto leads. Crypto is lagging because it's really the AI that's going to be leading.
Okay, so so basically that is kind of sidelined the idea of what, Bitcoin 150,000 you were thinking before?
Well, I think it's still very likely that Bitcoin's going to be above 100,000 before year end, and maybe even above one to a new high. So Bitcoin makes its moves in 10 days and every year. I think some of those best days are still going to happen before year end.
We're watching it right now at 89.5.
That would be Bitcoin at above 126 by end of year, which would be pretty exciting if that's how the story ends up playing out. So the question is just going to be, do we actually get that type of risk on momentum? And maybe the rate cut is going to be the catalyst to get there. Here's the last of what Tom had to say, and then we'll keep going from there.
The full leadership of the first half of this year, where the OpenAI, Orbit, and everything else can participate.
Yeah. Well, I know stocks have been sort of trading pole position, NVIDIA and Alphabet. But to me, the bigger story arc remains that AI is a mega trend. There's a lot of resources and spending, and it's a big contributor to growth. And we know there's a shortage of both power and silicon. So I do think it's going to ultimately move in the next 12 months kind of as one cohort. I don't think valuation sensitivity is as important as people think. We're actually studying this now. We're going to be publishing it soon. But if you look back 10 years ago, the most expensive stocks at the end of 2015 continued to be the best stocks over the next 5 years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I don't even know if it's really a valuation story in terms of what's taken a step back. It's a matter of, kind of who's got the current lead,
whose model
or the
works
clearest
better.
path or something like that. Yeah. Cameron, in terms.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that argument that he's saying about the valuation isn't as irrelevant, because 2015, the most overvalued stocks like in Amazon have turned out to be the best performing stocks. I think that's also just kind of obvious to an extent, right? Like if you have hype beta stocks that are overvalued, 10 years later, they probably either won't be around or definitely won't reach those valuations. But if there are companies that are growing earnings and they're quote unquote overvalued or traded at expensive multiples, I mean, they either A, grow into those multiples, or B, the street continues to give them that premium because there's a handful of companies that are worth getting that much capital. And there's a lot of people that want to invest. So I think that could be the case over the coming years for some of the AI stocks that do seem expensive. And obviously a lot of them were more expensive a month ago, and we've since had a drawdown, and that gives them time to continue growing into their valuation. So look, I think what Tom Lee's saying right there is kind of keeping that bull story intact. Obviously the rate cut scenario would be kind of what really helps this move on into the end of the year. His Bitcoin target has moved down from that 200,000 range to at least above 120. And then going into January, we're going to see how the market ultimately acts as we enter 2026. But that was pretty much what Mr. Tom Lee had to say. And that's what we've got going on. Ram, thanks for the super chat. Glad I found your channel. You met my sister at her apartment gym. She doesn't want to come over to see your hack collection if you can stop texting her. This is why I'm thankful for you guys. These are the super chat. The fact that someone paid $4.99 to put that out there publicly. This is why you guys are the best chat on YouTube. This is why. Even though ChatGPT roasted you guys this morning. If you haven't seen the market open, go to the chapter where it says ChatGPT roasts the chat. Just go to it. You'll see how super intelligence, hundreds of billions of dollars of GPUs thinks about how you guys treat me sometimes. Okay, a couple other headlines, and then we're going to end it out for today. First of all, I want to show you guys something. If I showed you this picture that is on the screen, everyone would say this is AI. Kind of obvious, good looking picture, but you would say it's AI. If I showed you this picture, everyone would probably say, yep, that's AI. If I showed you this picture, a little bit better, more realistic, everyone would probably still say it's AI. Now, if I showed you this picture, it is not that easy to say this is AI. Folks, this is Nano Banana Pro. Nano Banana Pro apparently took this is a side-by-side between Nano Banana and Nano Banana Pro. Obviously, you can tell the one on the left is Nano Banana. So that's like a decent picture, but anyone could tell, hey, this is probably AI. The one next to it is if you upgrade. I verified with a bunch of different sources. This is accurate. It's been going viral. And this is what Google is putting out. And this is why Gemini is getting the attention that it's getting. This post itself got 23 million views. People cannot believe that this is actually real, but both of these are AI. I mean, when I saw this picture, I thought the guy like sent this picture into Nano Banana and said, hey, make me a version of this. And this is what it popped out. But apparently he prompted girl sitting at a bar. And then on the pro version, you get this. I think the existential impact this is going to have for humanity in regards to what is real, what is fake, what is an influencer in the next 5 years if anyone can just code up an influencer and then prompt them to speak in a certain way. I mean, like, it really begs a lot of questions. A lot of questions. So bullish Google, dude. So bullish Google. I don't think we've seen any other model that is being able to create content like that. Now, Sora is really good, and I've played around with Sora as well. Nano Banana Pro, in terms of image generation, I've not seen an image like that from Sora. I've seen some pretty good videos, which are obviously very realistic, but my goodness, that one did not feel like it was AI. But that's what you got. And so, again, a lot of these new innovations in regards to the R&D that these companies are putting up, it looks like it's going to lead to a lot more excitement. By the way, speaking of Google right here, I found some analysis. Remember when the information apparently said that Meta was going to be using Gemini for ad targeting? Meta later denied the report. This is a quote they put out a couple months ago. We've always built our own industry-leading proprietary ad targeting and recommendation systems. Separate from that, we regularly evaluate third-party tools for the purpose of benchmarking, which is the case here. The company, the media establishment that put out that report a couple months ago was, of course, The Information. So again, we have zero update on TPUs from Google and Meta in regards to a collaboration. This is the reason why NVIDIA got hit so hard yesterday. None of the companies have come out and confirmed it, but again, The Information does not have the best history of making these stories the most accurate. So we're going to see if that ends up becoming true. But nonetheless, if it's not, then maybe a lot of this pain yesterday around the TPU GPU debate was not as big of a deal. Google right there, 320 up 0.08%. After hours. Again, when you see images like that and when you see how fast Nano Banana is growing in regards to how much attention they're getting, because now everyone realizes that if you want an amazing lifelike image, you got to go to this new Nano Banana thing. It's hard to imagine that Google does not continue doing well. So we're going to see if that momentum can continue. We do have another piece of breaking news right here, unfortunately, and this was at the White House. Some of you guys probably heard this story. Some of you guys probably didn't, but it included a shooting of 2 National Guards at the White House.
Same.
Mike, we're monitoring reports now of a shooting incident just a couple of blocks from the White House here in Washington, D.C. This happened just about 20 minutes ago. And what we know is that, according to the Department of Homeland Security, 2 National Guardsmen have been shot. Their condition is unclear at this time. D.C. police say.
The Wall Street Journal just confirmed 5 minutes ago that they have unfortunately passed away. Those 2 National Guardsmen that were shot.
they have a suspect in custody already. Now, this took place within a couple of blocks of the White House complex itself, but not adjacent to it or at the White House complex. This is somewhere around 17th and 17th and 8th Street. So that's somewhere between Farragut Park and Lafayette Park here in Washington, D.C., if you know the area. We're also seeing a report now, Mike, that DCA, Ronald Reagan National Airport, does have a ground stop due to security. No additional information on that ground stop just yet, but we are seeing reports as well that a medevac helicopter landed on the ellipse at the south of the White House and then took off bound for a medical facility. So we don't know the condition, as we say, of the National Guardsman. There are conflicting reports now of
the shooter or the suspect was shot and is in custody. Some of you guys are saying they didn't actually die. From what I'm seeing, Wall Street Journal at 4:01, so 15 minutes ago, 2 members of the National Guard have been shot and killed. That's at least what the Wall Street Journal is saying. We'll see if they have an update on this article. The suspect is in custody and has also been shot. Retracted? That's weird. Usually you get an update on the Wall Street Journal if they update the statement. I don't see an edit here yet. I will try to figure out what's happening, but there's so much missing context on like who is the suspect? Why did they start shooting? Were they aiming for someone else? How did this happen? Like, we really don't have a lot of details on how this ended up happening, but it was just one of those stories that broke literally right before I went live. And so, yeah, hoping for the best for those families. It's obviously very sad this happens before something like Thanksgiving. But we'll try to get an update on exactly what's happening here and why this ended up taking place. So those are most of the stories for the days, folks. I think that's pretty much it. The AI stuff I wanted to show you guys on Nano Banana. We looked at some of the margin debt increases. Obviously, markets had their 3rd green day in a row. Oster got the upgrade by Piper Sandler. And then you had Tom Lee's thoughts on what's going on in the world of crypto. Some of you guys saying they did die. Let me see if I can get another article that explains it. Some of you saying critical condition. No, AP, they've died. Fox News as well, saying they passed away. Either all these sources have it wrong or they actually have passed away here. Yeah. BBC News, New York Times also saying it. It's weird, dude. Yeah. It's very confusing, like why and how this even took place, but that is something that happened earlier today. How did they die? It seems like from getting shot. It seems like they were in critical custody and then the bullet wounds were just too much, and that's how they ended up getting killed. But I'll see if I can get an update on this story. Hopefully, when we come back next week, we'll have a lot more details on why this happened or how it happened, who they were actually aiming for, but that is something that did happen today. Palantir right here, 165 after hours, NVIDIA 180, Robinhood 128, Amazon at 229, and then Google here at 320. Yeah, the why and how is confusion. It's like really, really confused. Again, and no one has any updates on it. There's no coverage other than this has indeed happened. Trump has a tweet on this? Hold on. Trump, okay, the animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen with both being critically wounded, and multiple sources now reporting dead, and now in 2 separate hospitals is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. I, as President of the United States, and everyone else associated with the Office of the Presidency, am with you. So no context on exactly how and why this happened. All right. I think that is pretty much it on the day. Yeah, nothing else in terms of major headlines that took place today. I think the fact that we ended green was very bullish. The fact that, let's pull up the heat map, the fact that we ended green into the broadening of the market, aka NVIDIA didn't really participate, which, you know, as much as I love NVIDIA, I do want the rest of the market to continue helping to continue help the overall broadening formation of the S&P 500. Like that's bullish. And so you had Salesforce that was down, Intuit that was down, ServiceNow that was down, NVIDIA was up 1.3%, Google was flat, Meta was flat, but everything else got a bid, which was very nice to see. And that's pretty much what we have for the day. Do you think we sell off a bit on the short Friday? You know, if we do get a sell-off on Friday, a lot of it is probably less less reasonable to assume if it's that big of a deal, because it's such low volume, and it's also it's like a Friday before we start December. So I mean, I wouldn't overreact to any massive move up, any massive move down. You're just going to probably have people that are trading in and out of stocks on Friday. So I don't think we're going to really see a trend, but yeah, the momentum over the past couple of days at least has been relatively green. There will definitely be some algos that have some fun on Friday. No, the sister thing is not true. Ram is just a funny guy. It's a good comment. I'm not going to lie. Doesn't want to see your hat collection. It's actually a funny comment. All right. I think that's it for me. I guess last question I'll have for everybody for the week. This will be the last stream for the week. I asked this last night on Steve's stream, but I think it's important to ask before Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for? What are you thankful for? You can put in the chat, what are you thankful for? Mitt's hats. Oh my gosh. I said this yesterday, but health, family, all that stuff goes without saying. Really, one of the things I'm the most thankful about is this community and the audience we built and the ability to navigate everything going on back and forth. I mean, these are tough markets to deal with. It's not easy as an individual person. I greatly benefit from Chris and Steve and Jason and all these people, Matt Money, people I can just call up and ask questions to. So to be able to cultivate that community live every single day, hopefully be a source of information and entertainment, and be part of something bigger than ourselves, which at the end of the day is creating more financial independence. And the way we do it is the stock market. And it's the most dynamic and interesting time to be an investor, I think, of the history of investing, given the technological revolution that we're going through. And it's just really cool to be doing this together with everybody. So very, very grateful to be here and do this every single day. I'm grateful for Amit's pronunciation. For all the people saying grateful for you, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, there is no me without you. So it is a two-way street. And I just deeply appreciate being here every single day. I try never to take it for granted every single day. And some weeks it's tough. Like last week, it's, going live every day when it's bleeding red and you have to basically give a reason when you might not have a reason for why things are horrible. I mean, like, you got to be able to navigate it. So, but the fact that people even care about your perspective, your opinion, that you're a source of comfort for them to try to give them some guidance and in terms of what's going on, whether we're up or down, that to me is very, 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 very humbling. And I'm very grateful for that. So I think that's it as we end out the year. Derek just texted me today. Derek is, dude, there's like rich and there's like rich. Derek texted me a video of him and Vlad getting on the private jet to New York. I was like, bro, you guys are rich. You guys are just a different type of rich. Freaking private jet from Miami to New York. But I didn't know he was going to be showing up to dinner, but he'll be there today. So it'll be fun to catch up with him. And then Steve will be there. My sister just called me. She was like, wait a second. So why am I going to this dinner again? I was like, Vlad said to invite, anyone who wants to come. So I asked if you wanted to come. And she was like, Vlad, you mean we're having dinner with like Vlad Tenev? And I was just like, bro, like sometimes she says things and I just want to throw my phone. I'm like, yes, we're having dinner with Vlad Tenev. Yes, exactly. We're having dinner with the CEO of Robinhood. 100%. That's what's happening today. And she was like, no, but are we? I'm like, no, we're not freaking having dinner with that Vlad. But we are having dinner with another Vlad. And it's going to be hilarious because, like, again, she's all on this, like, tax the billionaires, like, type of thing. And it'll be funny. I think this will be a funny dinner. I'll be like, so here's a billionaire. You want to tell him how much you want to tax him? I think it'll be a fun conversation. Wait, she doesn't watch your channel? No, she never. Dude, she watches a ton of YouTube. She never shows up to my channel, ever. It was funny because I was on the phone with Triple V a couple weeks ago, and I told her, like, yo, my sister, like, wants to tax the crap out of you. And then he told me to send her a video. It was like a 4-minute video explaining how taxes work for, like, third graders. And I showed her the video. And she's like, yeah, it makes sense, but I still want billionaires to be taxed. I was like, all right, so now you have an opportunity. You're going to be at dinner with 2 billionaires. It's time to tell them how much they need to be taxed. It's time to have the conversation. So amidst taking his sister to roast her. No, I do want her to meet them though, and it'll be fun. It'll be a good conversation. And then we'll have Steve there, so that'll be good as well. All right, I think that's it. Again, thank you everybody for being here. It's been a fun couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as we continue into the green. We got to see if this ends up holding up for December, and if it does, I think it'll be a fun end of year. But the most important thing, I think, is that we recovered some really key levels, and getting to these key levels was not easy to get back to. The market almost made it seem easy over the past couple of days, but realistically, it took this whole narrative flip on the rate cuts, took a lot more momentum on the AI trade, not seeming like it was a bubble, even though you have, Michael Burry still saying all this stuff. And I think you also just needed the market realizing, like, things aren't that bad in the economy. And the labor market data we got over the past couple of days kind of confirmed that. So labor market's weakening. It's not deteriorating, which means there's a case for a rate cut, AI trade intact. And that's where you get your bull market. All right, there we go. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Deeply, deeply appreciate everyone being here every single day. We'll be back on Monday. I think this is the longest break we've taken in a while. So no show tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Again, Sunday night can be with family. But Monday morning, we'll be live. And Monday starts the last month of 2025, which, again, I still can't believe that, dude. I still can't believe it. Last month, I really can't believe it. But we're ending out last month of the year, and then we enter 2026. And then we're going to have to navigate a ton of different challenges within the new year. But my goodness, just getting through 2025 itself has been kind of crazy. Well, that's it. We are ending out the year. It has been a great year with a lot of different opportunities. And obviously, if this market can end out green, we are 5% away from having 3 back-to-back 20% years. So that would also be very important for everyone in the broader markets. All right. Thank you, everybody. Deeply grateful for all of you. I will see you guys on Monday. Enjoy the time with your family. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, enjoy the time off. Markets, again, will be open on Friday. Won't be open for too long. It'll be a half day at 1 p.m. And I think Steve is streaming on Thanksgiving. He told me he would, so he might end up streaming. If he doesn't, then we'll be back on Monday, and we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Love you all. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.